Actually, I can just fucking... I know exactly how to stream. Stream the custom ingest, and then Facebook Live.
No, it didn't. I know it didn't tag my game as Among Us, fam. I know that didn't happen just now. But with Facebook, it's...
I just want to make sure it works to the confined page. I don't want to try something new on the first episode. That'll be something that I try outside of this.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought Facebook did an update where it's...
What was the, like, what are we calling this? Communication?
Oh, nonviolent.
What are we calling this episode?
You can call it whatever you want. I just called it an NVC
Nonviolent communication.
Yeah, and then like part 1 or something. That's fine. Official. Don't need to be official. What's up, fam? What's up, Luis?
Nah.
How you doing, bro? Get this shit set up. We're just waiting for people to come in here. We're having a little mental health decompression stream with Casual right now. Chilling for now. We're on Zoom. All the likes and shares. We're not gonna be... What's up, Lindsay? We're not gonna be focused so much on reactions and stuff, so I'm not gonna be shouting everybody out immediately.
Because I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, same, dude. I don't care. But we'll just wait for people to file in here.
Check. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay, my mic's on. Computer audio is working. Good to go. And we are going live. And you should be able to see everything on both my stream and Confides. Are you streaming it too? Oh, you're muted. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, my computer's shitting itself, so going as fast as I can.
I'm not.
Because all of these chats like give you the preview of the stream before they need to. Like, I don't care what my fucking YouTube stream looks like at all. Wouldn't give a shit less.
Yeah. Wait, what are you using?
Restream.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I just need to free up resources. Can't fucking do that.
Gotcha. I understand.
What's up, Haley? What's up, Ramsey? What's up, Disa? What's up, Carl? And Notify? What up? Oh, I killed YouTube too. Rip. I killed YouTube.
I'm gonna.
Hopefully the stream's
sounds like the
quality
audio is
for y'all.
good. I'm just gonna double check. Make sure that I'm not hearing anything weird. So I'm gonna mute myself for a second.
Setting things up here, fam. Sec. Joe with the like, Haley with the like, Decent with the like, Ramsey with the like, Lindsay with the like. Appreciate y'all. We turned off the notifications. We're just gonna be talking. We'll be decompressing. I wrote some notes on a process that's helped me a lot in my life, which is nonviolent communication. It's detailed in a book written by Marshall Rosenberg. You can get it like basically anywhere. I got mine off Amazon. I have the audiobook and I have the real book, and we're just gonna be kind of diving into it. Casual play the part of like just like a bystander.
Oh, are you muted?
Kind of learning.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? I can't hear the stream. I am loud.
That's okay.
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 All right, let's let Everyone's getting in here. We got.
Yeah.
What's up, Rachel? What's up, Alex? What's up, Mercedes? How are you guys doing? And Mad Mike. Sheesh. Okay. If you want to go ahead and like kind of explain what we're covering before we
sure.
even get started.
Yeah, I mean, it's a process that I've learned over the years. When I first started therapy, there was a few months in time where kind of what was very evident to me and my therapist was that I didn't really know how to communicate my feelings or my boundaries or communicate in general. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with communication as a whole. I think that that's the breakdown in a lot of different relationships that we have, whether it's romantic or interpersonal or professional or whatever they may be. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, struggle with how to say the things we want to say to the person while also being honest and true to ourselves. And nonviolent communication kind of, in a nutshell, kind of gives us the playbook in how to better connect with ourselves and other people. And then in that way, it makes compassion and giving more natural. So you essentially want to kind of come into every conversation, and obviously NVC, nonviolent communication, NVC, I'm kind of going to use those words interchangeably. It's not going to be applicable for every situation, but I found it extremely applicable in a situation where either somebody's doing something you don't like and you want to communicate to them in a compassionate way what they're doing and kind of how they can change their behavior to be more in line with your needs. Or if somebody's doing something that you do like, you want to communicate to them that, hey, this and this, I really enjoy this, and because of this, and therefore my needs are being met. So I think the important thing with NVC or nonviolent communication is that you can learn the mechanics all day long. You can know, because the mechanics are pretty simple. It's observation, feeling, need, request, right? You observe what they're doing. You connect it to a feeling inside of you, which requires some self-awareness. You connect that feeling to a need, because at the end of the day, what we'll learn through this whole series, mini-series, podcast, whatever, is that every feeling is a direct result of a need being met or unmet, right? If your needs are being met, you're feeling pleasurable feelings, right? And those needs can be all of them. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, feeding, drinking, sleeping, whatever, will also need for independence, need for autonomy, need for love, need for sex, whatever it may be, right? If your needs are being met, you're going to feel good things. And you need to express the feelings and the needs together. And then at the end of the whole process, mechanically, is going to be a section where you have to request something very specifically from the other person that you're basically going to communicate to them how you're going to make life more enriching for yourself. So an example, just to kind of wet your beak a little bit, would be if a mom comes in and sees, very common thing that happened to me when I was a kid. Mom comes into the room, sees a bunch of fucking toys strewn across the room, right? Parents go fucking ape shit for that, right? They need order, right? They have a need that is not being met of an order around the house, right? And the majority of the time, we approach these situations as parents or as whoever with the idea of, I got to make a reward punishment system, right? I got to give them an allowance for cleaning their room, and then when they don't, maybe punish them with timeout or whatever, right? But NVC kind of teaches you through this entire process of how to approach the situation in a manner where you're telling your child how they can have an opportunity to make your life better. And what I've found through using this kind of a methodology is that most people, I would almost say almost all people, want to contribute to your life being better at the end of the day, because that's literally what we do all day long. Like, yeah, we want this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make our life better for ourselves and for the people around us and our loved ones, whether that be friends, family, children, whatever. So, it's difficult sometimes to really kind of take a step back and to really use the ability of nonviolent communication. But just like anything you learn in therapy, just like any kind of thing that you grow into, it's like a muscle, right? You're gonna have to work it. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna fall on your face sometimes. You're not gonna communicate effectively, but that's all part of the plan. That's all just part of the situation, and that's all just part of the timeline, right? We're not going for 100%. We're going for incremental increases to our understanding, and eventually a place where we can really come to grips with how we can communicate effectively with people. So I guess Yeah, so that's in a nutshell. And the real important thing, like I said, observation, feeling, need, respect. You can learn those things inside and out. You can be the best explainer of how to feel certain things, whatever it may be. But if you're not doing it with the right integrity, and you're not doing it with the understanding that you're trying to extend the opportunity for the other person to make life better, and also not guilt, shame, or blame them into changing their behavior, um, nonviolent communication is a very good tool. If you're literally trying to use it to kind of coerce somebody into changing their behavior, you could use any kind of communication, and it's just going to be just as ineffective. Um, so that's just kind of in a nutshell, kind of what NVC is. Um, and it's at the end of the day, it's kind of asking two questions, which is what, for the person actually communicating it. The first question is, what is alive in us? And what is alive in us sounds like a loaded term, but it's actually coded into our language currently. It's very frequently used as, how are you? And it's become kind of word vomit in American language, right? Everybody just meets everybody else and they go, how are you? How are you? How are you? And most of the time, nobody really truly cares. Maybe they do care, but we're just kind of saying it, right? We're not investing ourselves into really finding out how the other person is. We're just kind of saying it because it's common manners, right? But
Yeah, there's a lot of times where you'll be in a situation where you'll be at work or whatever, and maybe you are going through something, and it's not the same person that comes in every day and is like, yo, how's it going, how you doing, and you actually stop and you're like, hey, actually, like, I'm going through some shit, and you almost notice that they're not really prepared to even comprehend thinking about the shit you're going through.
yeah,
Because really they're just expecting that same
boilerplate.
1 to 5 word
Yep.
response, and there was never actually any connection there.
Exactly.
And so I can see that in an everyday life, but also in personal things, like being a streamer. When people come into your stream and they like and everything, it's this common theme of, oh, thanks for that like, and then you just kind of move forward. But as streamers, I think it's important to take care of our communities and really, like, if they come in and they are there with a struggle, to acknowledge their struggle and to dedicate whatever sort of time that you can into helping them understand how they can, just like you said, non-violently communicate what they need to be happy, and to help them communicate that to you, because maybe there's something that you as a streamer or people in your community can do to make them feel better, whether that be words of affirmation or acts of service or simply getting them a gift. There's so many ways to make people feel loved, and I think at the core value, everybody needs water, everybody needs food, but I think right after those two things, everybody needs love. And that's a huge thing, whether it be that brotherly love, that friend love, that parent to child love. Everybody needs some sort of love in their life, and if you don't have that, that's what leads to those really bad mental health situations. And I think as streamers, we have nothing but an opportunity to approach this communication, this style of communication, and to help teach others to have that. Because if we don't communicate, we can't read each other's minds. If I don't communicate to you as a friend and as a streaming partner, hey, when we're streaming together, I need this in order to feel like the stream's going well. If I can't communicate to you and then I just take that away and start spiting you,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a really unhealthy behavior, and it destroys relationships. And it doesn't just destroy relationships, it destroys and I've done this in the past with other streamers. I've taken things really personally and then didn't communicate, and then when I did finally communicate, it definitely wasn't a nonviolent form. It was a lot more of a, hey, you did this and I think you deserve this.
Yeah.
Whereas, and looking back now, I'm like, shit, like, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're all human, and going forward, you just have to know how to approach these situations.
You truly
So I
do.
guess what we're covering today, and this could be for anyone listening, is, and this is going to be a part one episode, because there's probably a lot of ground to cover on this, but basically the basic functions of nonviolent communication, how to practice it daily, and how to start approaching a better life and communicating what helps you achieve that better life and that happiness
Right.
with the people around you.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what we want to avoid is what happens when we don't communicate how we're feeling and we don't ask things in a nonviolent manner. We don't ask things in a connected, empathetic manner. Resentment grows. And that R word, we want to avoid at all costs, because if resentment grows, then we're associating that person in our mind with the resentment that we feel as a result of whatever they did or didn't do. And immediately, right off the bat, the next time that person comes into our mind, the first thing you associate with them is, well, last time I talked to them, etc., right? Or the
right,
last
right.
time I
It
brought it up
instantly
with
goes
them. It
there.
makes compassionate giving so much more difficult. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot. So it's, again, no one's gonna be perfect at it. I struggle with it every day, right? Every time I come back to this book, I kind of give it a read through, I kind of give it a listen through an audiobook or whatever it may be. It kind of really re-highlights the things that I'm good at and re-highlights the things that I'm not so good at, you know. And it honestly kind of gets me to connect back to myself and say, hey, the last 6 times that I had a conversation with person X or person Y, I did this, this, and this is how I've kind of formed my thinking. And maybe it wasn't the most nonviolent form that I could have used. Maybe there was a different type of language, um, you know, essentially nonviolent communication. Maybe there was a way that I could have structured my feelings and my needs, in so much as that the other person can receive them in a compassionate way, right? You want to open up the person. What you don't want to do is you don't want to judge or shame them so that they get on the defensive and become self-defense or counterattack, right? You want to avoid that. So nonviolent communication kind of teaches us a mechanical process, um, to
Right.
the actual mechanics of the process in order to kind of how to implement it and then how to better get the results that you're looking for in terms of communicating with a partner, with a parent, with whoever it may be, right? I mean,
There's this thing that my therapist talked to me about,
mhm,
and it really it shows a lot. There's things that you don't realize as a person that we as humans do, and this can stem from childhood traumas. This can stem from past experiences with other people and triggers that you don't even know exist. Like, let's say someone betrayed you at one point, and then in the future another person does something that happened before your betrayal, and now all of a sudden you're thinking that they might betray you. It's there's this pathway in your brain that you're walking, and he called it like a neurological pathway.
yeah,
And so if you think about it, like, think about really tall grass and then walking through that tall grass, and then walking the exact same path and walking the exact same path and walking the exact same path, eventually you're going to have this lane that you've been walking, and you're naturally going to want to walk that
yeah,
path again and again and
yeah,
again. So what you're doing when you're practicing these mechanical practices towards communication is you're changing that path. And at first, your mind is just going to want to go straight on the path you went on before, over and over and over and over. And you're going to slip up and you're going to
yep,
go on that. It's going to happen. But the concept is to keep trying to form that new path, so that when you hit that point, at some point, this path, the grass grows back, and you're going down a new path that's healthier and better for your own happiness, and for the ability to achieve that happiness and communicate what you need. And it gets to the point where your brain automatically goes down that
yep.
path. And so it is like muscle memory, but really it's like neurological
It
memory.
is, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
the ability to practice something to the point where you've reached a point in your confidence and in your mental health where you don't have to even think twice about how you're going to communicate something.
Yeah,
And I think
go ahead.
this is an amazing one to start,
No, and I think
because
a
communication
lot of
is
people can relate to
everything.
it.
And I think that, so this is just a little intro, and if anyone has any questions or anything they want to say, I think we'll take a moment to read what you guys are saying, and appreciate that, because obviously this is communication between us and our communities.
Right.
And also, um, so we'll do that first, and then we're gonna really, like, we're gonna dive deep,
Yeah.
and we won't be reading chat as much. But at the end, I promise we'll go over chat more, and we'll also discuss some other things I want to bring to attention to. I put in the pinned comments links to a new podcast, or not a podcast, to a new playlist on Spotify. Essentially, from the start, I wanted to be able to do this. music has a really big play on mental health, in my opinion. I think a lot of people use music as an outlet to be able to achieve feeling what they're feeling. And so I made a
Appreciate all the
playlist
likes too, guys. We'll get to them.
called Confide Mental Health. And that's for anyone in the community that wants to add to that playlist. If you have a song that has helped you or feel happy or helped you with feeling sad or just helped you in any way with your mental health, even if it's with anger or whatever feeling you may be feeling, please feel free to put it's open game. Just put the songs on the playlist. And then
Yep.
at any point in time where someone wants music to go to for their own mental health, they can go there and they can find this resource and this art form that can help anyone in the community. And we're going to be posting this playlist every single podcast episode so that everyone can be consistently kept up with
Damien,
what's going on
Casual,
and add stuff that
Gregory
they
with
want
the
to add
likes, JC, girlfriend with the like. How you
if
doing,
you
JC?
want to start with
Liv
your
with the
chat,
like, Sony with the
we
like.
can go there.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me scroll to the top. What's up, everybody? Being able to communicate feelings at all would be cool. I'm the epitome of hyperbole. The epitome of a doormat and a people pleaser, so I never communicate feelings if it's... Yeah, Ramsey. I mean, that's kind of... It's my hope that even after this little seminar, that people kind of understand why it's important to connect with yourself and communicate those feelings, because essentially what you're doing is you're presenting what you're feeling as a gift to the person and an opportunity for them to change their behavior that is more in line with their needs. And when you think about it in that fashion, it's not somebody being needy or, you know, whatever negative connotation judgments that we have in our heads of communicating our emotion. Society kind of tells us to think about communicating our emotion. What it really is a beautiful, wonderful opportunity, gift that you're giving the other person and saying, hey, I have the self-awareness to know how I'm feeling, what needs aren't being met, and what you can do in order for my needs to be more met down the line. So they're basically giving you, somebody who practices nonviolent communication effectively are giving you the playbook of how you can better make them more in line with what they need, right? And if you look at it as an opportunity and not as a burden, I think from the giver and from the receiver, it makes the compassionate giving and that compassionate, empathetic type of situation so much easier to kind of just live and sit in. So yeah, Ramsey, we don't want to bottle it up, but like Casual has said, like I've said, you know, it's gonna take some time. It's not gonna be instant. You know, you're gonna have times where you're not even gonna think of nonviolent communication. You're gonna go back to kind of what the metaphor that Kaz was talking about with the tall grass, right? We dig ourselves into a rut where it's comfortable, even if it's chaos filled, because there's comfort in the chaos sometimes, because we as humans are creatures of habit and we get used to a situation, and it's really difficult to forge new pathways, new neurological pathways, new communication pathways, whatever it may be. So it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of unlearn the way that society has taught us to communicate, which a lot of the times is just not in line with our empathetic, compassionate, giving nature.
And for some people, it's gonna be harder. It's
exactly. Some people
it's a
natural.
personal journey.
Yep.
It's a very personal journey. And like if you've gone through abuse or you've gone through something, that right there affects how you're going to treat communication and how you're going to move forward. And it's important. Some people,
Yes,
honestly,
Haley, it'll be on the podcast.
they can listen to this and they can get a lot of help.
Glad to hear it,
They
Alexis.
can get a lot of substance out of this. But some people,
you can learn,
honestly,
Luis.
you
That's
might need therapy. And that's okay. It's okay to need therapy. I'm in therapy. Michael's in therapy. And this is a construct for people to be able to listen to and have some sort of material that could help them that you can come back and re-listen to. We're going to be posting it to YouTube and eventually to Spotify and Apple Music, to where if you're at work and you just really like, man, this is the issue I'm going through. Was there an episode on this? You can go back and you can listen to it. But if you feel that you're struggling and you need therapy and you don't know where to start, you can definitely reach out to us. And we've both been through the experience of finding a therapist and have talked to many people who have also had to find therapists and know the process.
Thank you for the hype, Ramsey.
It's okay to need professional help. In fact, most people need professional help. Most people do. And so
I would say all people can learn something from it. Dude, my therapist goes to therapy. Like, it's just you need sometimes, well, I would argue all the time, but I don't want to speak in extremes. that unbiased viewpoint of somebody who doesn't live in your life, right? Because when you're asking your mom or your friends or your spouse or your partner or whoever it may be for this type of advice, sometimes they just can't detach themselves from the reality in which they're living in. Whereas a therapist goes to school 4, 5, 6, 8 years, whatever it may be, in order to ground themselves in that place where they can listen from a neutral standpoint and then give you real clinical tools in how to tackle kind of your issues, whatever that may be, whether it's changing your behavior or whatever it may be, right? So nonviolent communication was actually something that my therapist recommended that I read, because it was a lot of times in my previous relationships and situationships where I would be struggling to find a way to describe how I'm feeling. So kind of I would echo what Ramsey has said earlier in the chat, where I would just be kind of a doormat. I would say something and either they wouldn't respond with anything, or I would associate the last time I said something with them not responding. So then I go, well, what's the point? Right? I'm not even going to say anything. And that's something we don't want to get into, where it's just in this toxic standard line, and we don't really know how to communicate in general. Hey, Luigi, thank you for the double like. Much love to you. So, I mean, I guess are we ready to get into the nuts and bolts?
I see one question: what are good practices to rebuild new neurological pathways? And then another statement, Faye says, I think my issue is I don't have a problem communicating my issues, but I definitely have been working on listening and not reacting, trying to listen and put myself in another person's shoes. I'm trying to be more proactive rather than reactive. Yeah, there's a lot of people have this tendency to, instead of actually actively listening to what the person is saying to you, thinking about what you're going to say next.
Bonding, yeah.
And it's one really good practice for that, that I've learned, and this has helped me a lot because listening is huge. If you're not listening to them, you're never going to be able to, even if they're non-violently communicating to you, you're never going to be able to take what they're saying and apply that to their needs. And so there will be a podcast about listening, but I will give you this one piece of advice. And this is, you'd be surprised how far this can go. If someone is coming to you with a problem, an emotional insecurity, they're going through something, listen so much to the point, and then your response before you give an actual response is actually repeating what they said
Yeah.
in your own words.
Very good. Yeah.
So
That's true empathy.
it's genuinely like, they're like let's just say it's something simple. Hey, I asked you to take out the trash today. You didn't take out the trash. I'm pissed off. You should have been able to do that for me. You can literally reply to that with, so you feel upset because I forgot to do what you asked me to do, and you feel like, and you can try to like kind of guess what they're feeling, and show them that you genuinely care.
Yeah.
And that can be with very simple things, but it can also be with very deep things. If someone's going through something that's deep seated,
Thank you, Luis, for that 50 bomb,
even
brother.
if it's like betrayal, the best way to listen and practice
Hopefully
listening
we
is
can learn together
preparing to
how
be able
not
to
to hold
repeat
back
to
all
them
of
what
it.
they just told you, because that not only shows them that you're listening, but it also helps you to reprocess and regurgitate, and it kind of lets you show, hey, this is what I just heard and this is how I perceive it. And that way, if you're perceiving it wrong,
They
they
can
can kind
correct
of
you.
correct you.
Yeah.
And so when it comes down to listening to a situation, that's probably one of the biggest, and that's actually how they train therapists. That's how therapists are trained to respond to their clients, is by really repeating what you're saying to yourself and helping you to assess it from a different perspective.
Yep.
So that's my advice as far as listening, and as far as the good practices to help rebuild neurological pathways. I think the biggest thing is repetition,
Yeah.
and completely in every single moment of every day, whether it's positive or negative. Let's say you're talking about those neurological pathways with this communication. Well, communication is all the time. It's with yourself, it's with your kids, it's with your wife or husband, it's with your friends. Every single conversation you have, positive, small, big, negative, doesn't matter. You should be practicing, mindfully practicing whatever it is you're trying to burn into your neurological pathway. And that's probably the best way, in my opinion, to gain that path and that memory and that natural ability to change.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, is you're changing. But we're gonna go ahead and get started on the actual mechanical practices of this. So I'll let
Yeah.
you take.
One more thing. I have a few therapists where talks feel so generic and scripted, almost like it feels like they're giving you the basic tool, not really digging deeper into me personally and how I operate and why I operate the way I do. Yeah, Ramsey. I mean, I feel like part of that is just finding the right therapist that clicks with you.
If you go into a therapy office and you're uncomfortable for any reason,
Yeah,
they're not
they're
your
not your
therapist.
therapist. Therapy is like dating.
And that is a thing, because the thing is they're just a person. They're
Yeah,
just a human too. And um there are a lot of therapists out there that are not empathetic. And I
there
know
are.
when
Yeah,
I got really lucky with my therapist.
same.
I've only had 2 sessions with her, and it's like she instantly makes me feel comfortable and is so empathetic towards my pain and my situation. And I think that empathy is what I really needed. And that's why it helps me. But some people don't need that empathy. Some people need someone that's going to be more backbone and be like, well, you should stop, stand over here and look at it from this angle. There's so many different people and therapists that will approach things from a different psychological perspective, and you may not need what this therapist is going to offer, but I guarantee you there is a therapist out there that can be what you need and help you. It's just a matter of trying and finding, and it is important to keep trying.
Yep.
Don't just, even if you've gone through 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
therapists, don't give up on your needs.
Yeah. No, I would agree that as well. And Luis says, my sister told me not to hold out my anger. She said, let it out. Forget what you tell me after that. Yeah, dude. So kind of what nonviolent communication will tell you is there's a reason to why you're angry, right? Kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier was um the feelings that you feel, all of our feelings that we feel are directly connected to our needs being met or unmet, right? So your anger is your needs are being unfulfilled for one reason or another. Maybe it's the need for autonomy, maybe it's the need for independence, maybe it's the need for connection, maybe it's the need for, love, or maybe you're just hungry at the time. Maybe it's just the need for food. Who knows, right? And that's kind of where your emotions are coming from, right? So nonviolent communication allows that pathway for you to be a little bit easier to connect with your inner self and understand kind of where your feelings are coming from, what needs they're tied to. And then the last part of it is the request, is how you can approach somebody and say, hey, I'm feeling this. These are the needs that aren't being met. Could you please do this next time so that my needs are met the following time? So, mechanically speaking, nonviolent communication kind of, um, we're taught. So, a lot of nonviolent communication is as much as learning how to do the process, um, as it's as much as that as much as learning what it's not, right? So there's a bunch of communication that we've been kind of programmed to have in our back pocket and to use, and it's not nonviolent in any sense of the word. So um, very commonly we've been taught to how to evaluate one another by using like impersonal moralistic judgments where you're focused on whether somebody is right or somebody is wrong, right? That's not what nonviolent communication is, right? So for example, and this is all from the perspective of from the perspective of me. Um, your partner is more concerned with the details, right? They're picky and compulsive, right? Versus if you're more concerned with the details, they're sloppy and unorganized, right? Or your partner comes up and says, I'd like more attention. Then you automatically say, well, they're needy and they're dependent. They want that attention, right? Whereas if you come up and say to your partner, I want more attention, the reason that you're coming up is because they're cold and unemotional, something, right? So unfortunately, we've been programmed to think in that way. And what's tragic about that type of thinking is that it really is a tragic expression of our own values and needs. And what you're essentially saying when you're saying you're sloppy and unorganized is you're saying I feel uncomfortable or sad or angry or whatever because my need for order or whatever it may be at the time is not being met. And in reality, society has taught us, well, we're not going to go down that pathway. We're just going to call them names. We're just going to judge them impersonally and moralistically and say they were in the right or the wrong because we just don't know any better, right? It's tragic because the people that we're doing this to and the people that we're communicating in this manner with, they're the ones that we want the behavior to be of concern to them. And by communicating in that way, we're raising defensiveness, we're raising resistance, Because are you going to be open and communicative if somebody comes up to you and says you're fucking sloppy, right? No one's gonna. That's not how you. That's of course you're gonna be defensive. Like, no, I'm fucking not, right? And that's kind of how we've been taught to communicate, almost from a very small age, right? From a very young age.
We're in a time and age, and it's always been like this for humans, that a lot of people aren't actually being taught anything.
Yeah.
And if you think about human needs and how humans are naturally, think about when you're a baby and you're hungry, or you're crying, or you pooped your pants. What is your reaction? Your reaction is to cry. Your reaction is the only thing you know how to do. And when you're never taught how to approach these things, approach what you need and how to communicate what you need, that's what you do as a human, is you cry. That's what it is. It's a natural response. And there's this very huge point where you have to recognize when someone's talking to you, are they coming from a place of concern, or are they coming from a place of manipulation, of
judgment,
of trying to hurt you? And a lot of the times, I guarantee about 80% of the times, they're actually coming from a place of concern. And the problem is that they just don't know how to voice that concern. So what they're actually doing is crying. What they're actually doing is their natural response to whatever it is that's really bothering them or irking them. And so I think a big part in what you said at the beginning was knowing what not to do, but also understanding why humans naturally don't do it.
Yeah.
Why humans naturally don't have positive communication.
Yeah.
And why they naturally shell up, especially in a day and age where all we're doing is looking at our phones, and all we're doing is being sucked into entertainment and consistent social media.
Yeah.
The human connection has dwindled so far in this century, and one thing to be very mindful of is focusing on your human connection day to day without your phone. I recommend, if you're going to an event or you're going to do something, whether it be a church event or you're going to a concert with your friends or whatever, try putting your phone on airplane mode and just shoving it in your pocket, and practice your positive communication and encourage your friends to do the same.
Yeah.
And start living in the here and now, but also understanding there is a natural cry that we as humans have, and society doesn't push us to overcome that cry. In fact, they push us in the opposite direction.
Yeah. We're taught that our emotions and feelings, that our emotions and feelings, if they have a negative connotation, they are a burden to other people. That is not the case. That is one of the biggest flaws that we're taught in society. Ramsey says, I feel like a lot of our communication is learned behavior from our parents and the people around us. 100%. It's society teaches us how to evaluate each other in these impersonal moralistic judgments, right? Because if you think about it, if you say you're sloppy or you're picky or whatever it may be, you make a judgment on a person, right? There's two possibilities that they may happen. They may get defensive and they may go on the counterattack and say, well, fuck you, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, whatever, right? Or let's go the opposite way. Let's say they go, you're right, I am picky and I am sloppy, right? So that person will forever associate you in their minds with bringing something up that forces them to change their behavior out of fear, guilt, or shame. Because next time they behave in that manner, they go, well, he's going to tell me that I'm picky, or he's going to tell me that I'm compulsive, and he's going to tell me that. And you're building a neurological pathway in your head that says, last time I spoke to Michael, he called me picky, he called me impulsive, and even if I was compulsive and picky, whatever it may be, he made me feel guilty. He made me feel ashamed. He made me feel hurt. And the next time that you are requesting them to do something compassionately for yourself, they're that much less likely to do it. Because they just associate you in their mind as somebody who has this impersonal moralistic judgment of right or wrongness kind of on them, right? So It's not about judging right or wrong. And that's a big distinction. It's not about judging or being moralistic or trying to see who's more right or who's more wrong. It's agreeing to live in a way that contributes to another's well-being. That's what NVC is.
And a big part of that and being able to do that is understanding if someone's coming to you with something, instead of taking it instantly, if you need to take time with what they've brought you, and also understand that most of the time they are coming from a place of concern. they're not coming. They wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't important to them.
Right.
And some people are manipulative. Some people do have problems with controlling others and not considering anything but themselves.
Yep.
And it's important to cut those people out for your own health, but understand that most people are coming from a place of concern, and start developing a habit of really trying to see it that way.
Yeah.
See that place of concern so that you can non-violently communicate what you need to communicate back.
And you could be more open compassionately in that manner. So, I mean, so nonviolent communication is not moralistic judgments of right and wrong. NVC is also not making comparisons between you and another, or making comparisons between the other person and someone else, whoever you're talking to, right? It's an exercise in futility. It's an exercise in suffering, right? Anybody who tells you at any time you open up People magazine and you see society's perfect body image, right? And you try to compare yourself to that person, and then you dwell on the differences, right? You become depressed, because life's not about comparisons, not about comparison culture. It's about compassion, and the big part of it that's missed is compassion for yourself, right? It's not about who's best in this manner, who's best in these societal things, this structure that we've built. Anybody who has this washboard abs or whatever, that's the person that's great, right? If you compare yourself to fucking Mozart, like, you will always 100% be depressed, right? That guy wrote 5 symphonies by age 12. He knew 6 languages, right? That's an exercise in depression, right? So it's not NVC, again, it's not moralistic judgments of right and wrong. It's also not making comparisons about people in general, whether it between you and another person or between them and another person, right? Another thing that we do that kind of takes us away from being the most compassionate forms of ourselves, it takes us away from being kind of the ether of practicing NVC, is the denial of responsibility for our own feelings that is coded into the language that we speak today. This is a huge, huge topic. Clouding the responsibility for your own thoughts, feelings, and actions is an easy way to go down a path where you're connected from yourself and everybody else, right? We are unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, we are responsible for our own thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? No one can make you feel a certain way. Somebody can say something, and the way you interpret it, the way you take it, can set off a chain reaction in yourself, but they didn't make you feel that way. Your interpretation of what they said, and what they said could have been vile and disgusting and despicable, but nonetheless, your interpretation of what they said is what made you feel in that manner, right? It's coded into our language, right? I have to clean my room because I have to, right? I just have to. No, you don't. Clean your room because if you don't clean your room, you're going to feel depressed because your need for having an organized space where you can work is not being met. You're not cleaning your room because some impersonal, random, generic force made you clean, right? Another way, I drink because I'm an alcoholic. Drink because you have certain feelings you don't want to feel, right? You're not drinking because of some vague impersonal force, right? I hit my child because he ran into the street. Well, you hit your child because you're angry, because your need for your child's safety wasn't being met by your child's own actions. That's why you hit your kid. You didn't hit your kid because you had to, right? So a lot of this stuff is coded into our language, and it tricks us into thinking that life is like this impersonal force and things happen to us, right? Things just occur and you just can't control it, and you can't control your emotional outburst, right? You ever heard somebody say, I was overcome with an urge to do whatever, right? Whether it's, eat a candy bar or hit him or, whatever it may be, right? I was overcome with this urge. You're not overcome with an urge. You're feeling something, and in that moment, maybe it's not connecting to what you need at the time, and therefore you act that out in a certain way, but there's no metaphysical force that makes you do something, right? You are responsible for that own thing that you did and your own thoughts and feelings about it, right? So when we do things out of the pure joy of contributing to life, we're more happy internally, we're more connected to ourselves and with other people. When the language that we speak tricks us to think that we're compelled by outside forces to do something, even if it's a negative thing, life becomes less enjoyable. And that is a domino effect that everybody pays for. And it is very unfortunate. It would really be easy to just walk through life and just be like, you made me feel this way. You made me feel this way. I'm not responsible. It's all your fault. But that's just not how it works, unfortunately. So it's important to kind of disassociate that type of lack of responsibility from communicating positively, passionately, with somebody else. So no moralistic and personal judgments of right and wrongness, no comparisons, no denial of responsibility. Right? Another way is communicating your desires a demand. So many people do this, right? Teachers, easiest example I can think of. Teachers, right? You have to do this because I'm going to threaten you with blame or punishment, right? When people are doing something to avoid punishment or blame, this is going to be a recurring theme inside this whole mini series. People are doing something because of punishment, blame, or fear of punishment, or fear of blame, or fear of shame. They're not doing it to contribute to their own life. They're doing it to avoid whatever they're doing it. And you have to ask yourself, really, truly step back and ask yourself, do you really want that person to do that thing for the wrong reason? Because at the end of the day, they can do whatever it is that you want to do, right? There's two questions essentially. What do we need them to do? And what do we want their reasons for doing that to be? And if we don't answer that second question, the first question almost begs the question of, well, we can just reward them or punish them, right? But again, reward punishment cycle, you're associating the lack of punishment or the lack of reward with the reason that somebody is trying to do something. And you'd want them to do something because they know it's the right thing to do. You want them to do something because they know they're contributing to your life energy. They know you're contributing, they know that they're contributing to a better situation for you. They know they're contributing to a compassionate, empathetic culture with that other person that you're speaking with, right? So it's important. Those are kind of the spark notes of the things that nonviolent communication is not. So it's important to kind of understand that with NVC, we want people to do things because they intrinsically make sense to them and they enrich their own life. There's no extrinsic reward value for it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a big problem with today's society. We form all these. There has
to be a reward.
Exactly. We form these reward punishment cycles, and we're like, well, if you tell me how you're feeling, I'll give you this, or if you don't do this, then you're going to get punished. And in reality, what we really need to do is we need to associate and teach people, which is difficult. Nobody wants to do it, right? It takes time. We need to teach people, say, hey, if you do this in this particular manner, you're going to be more connected to yourself. And it's just the right thing to do because you're going to make my life more livable. You're going to make it more enjoyable for me. I'm going to have my needs met versus you need to do this because there's an authority figure that says you need to, right? Because they can do that thing. But again, every time they think about that thing, they go, well, Michael forced me to do that thing. I don't really want to, I don't really like him, right? And it might not be that quick, right? But there's going to be that deeper resentment. And next time Michael asks me to do something, I might give him attitude, right? Or I might start chipping away at the emotional rock. I might give him some stank with something that I answer. I might give him a tone, or I might swear at him, or I might yell at him, or whatever it may be, right? We want people to do things because they know that that's the right thing to do, right? The intention is to create a quality of connection necessary to meet everybody's needs passionately.
So I guess approaching that from that perspective as well, when it comes to communicating your needs and then also being able to communicate why you need things, it's important for yourself to non-violently communicate with yourself as well. To take time alone and really, because if you don't take time alone and you don't take the time to yourself to really talk to yourself and have this monologue and understand this is what I feel like I'm needing and this is why, then you're not going to be able to communicate those things to those around. You're not going to be able to put that out there, because if you don't know why you need something, then they don't know why you need something. And instead of it just being this direct, hey, I want you to clean the room because a clean space makes me feel comfortable. It could just be as simple as that. Or it could also be a dirty space makes me feel like I can't get anything done.
Yeah.
If you can't communicate the why, then it doesn't give them a reason to care.
Yeah. Essentially, you're trying to kind of crack the shell in the sense of helping them come to a point where you're not asking them to do fact. What you're doing is you're giving them the opportunity to make life better for you. enrich your life in a way that makes sense to you and a way that will make you happier. And like I said in the beginning of the whole thing, most people want to do that. Most people want to curate a space where the other person feels like they're heard, they feel like they're empathized with, they feel like they're shown compassion, they feel like they're shown emotion, they're heard. So NVC kind of teaches you how to do that. And yeah, it's important to, that's the connection between the feelings and needs, right? You go, I feel angry, and it doesn't just stop there, right? You're feeling angry because of something, right? It could be just as easy as I need to go to the bathroom really bad. That's why I'm angry, right? That's just a Maslow need, right? But it could also be I'm angry because the last 3 times you were supposed to plan a date night said that you're working late and you didn't tell me until late at night. My need for what need isn't being met there, right? That could be connection, be intimacy, love, be romantics, be sexuality, whatever it may be, right? I'm angry when you don't. This is exactly what I was talking about in terms of the template: observation, feeling, need, request. When you tell me that you're going to come home and then you end up coming home 30 minutes later every night, I feel angry, sad, frustrated, whatever it may be, however you're feeling, because my need for intimacy, connection, compassion, sex, whatever it may be, is not being met. Could you please be more mindful of your timing of coming home from work next time? And that's that request part at the end.
It's also important to, and a lot of this ties into it, into this nonviolent communication, is it's not just nonviolent communication, it's positive communication, it's words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So let's say your spouse has to stay at work an hour late, and you were supposed to have plans with them for that hour, and now you feel neglected or left out, like they chose their work over you. Well, the reality of it is they probably just had to stay at work, and you have to still voice your emotions.
Yeah.
But when voicing them, instead of saying, well, you chose work over me,
Yeah.
or
That's
well, you
that
did this,
that right
or
there.
you
You
did
chose
that,
work over me is a moralistic judgment on their behavior. That's what we
you
want to avoid.
need to use words of affirmation. And what that means is approach it. How can I approach this problem while positively talking to them and making them feel good about the problem?
Yeah.
And so they get home and you say, hey, I really missed our time together.
Yep.
And I really wanted to have that time with you because you are special to me. And so I would appreciate it if in the future you could try, or if we can make up for this time,
Yeah.
because it's important to me to have this time with you because you are important to me. Think about the difference and how they can respond to, oh, well, you chose work over me, as opposed to, hey, you're special, you're important. That is nonviolent communication. That is words of affirmation. That is one of the 5 love languages. And that overall, what we as humans need to learn is to use those 5 love languages to show each other love.
Yeah. Exactly. And one step further would be, because if you're in a relationship with a person and they did come home late or whatever it may be, one step further would be to open up your heart even further and say, well, how are you really feeling, right? Because I believe how you're feeling and communicating how you're feeling is the greatest gift you can give ever, especially in today's society. You come home and you say, hey, you are important to me. Exactly what Casual just said. You're important to me. I love you. I wanted to spend time with you. I'm feeling a little bit sad because my need for that connection wasn't being met because I stayed at work late. And the request would be, hey, can we set up a time tomorrow to have this time? Or next time that you need to stay home late at work, could you give me an extra, 5 minutes notice or 10 minutes notice or an hour notice or whatever it may be, right? So instead of like exactly what Casual just said, think about the difference in response you would get when they come home and you go, you're always fucking late, or you told me that you would be home here and you're not home here, and you chose work over me, and you just don't care about me, right? All of those are impersonal moralistic judgments on right or wrongness, right? They're just to blame somebody for that behavior instead of kind of turning intrinsically inward and saying, hey, what am I feeling right now as a result of it, right? When you come home late, observation, I feel sad, depressed, angry, whatever it may be, feeling, because my need for intimacy, compassion, connection, love is not being met. Need. Next time that you plan to stay home at work, could you give me earlier notification? Could we plan something for the next week so that we can connect on a deeper level? And I promise you, the partner or whoever that person is will be they won't respond all of the time, because not everybody knows how to non-violently communicate, right? They might respond in a violent manner, right? Whatever it may be. But it's important to kind of stay your ground and to be empathetic and to continue to be open, because that person in that situation is at a really good place to where they will respond in a positive manner. There's a higher percentage chance of you getting the response that you want, or at least fostering a communication space that's positive overall with that kind of self-assessment and self-awareness, versus you coming up to them and saying, why were you late? You know, you're always late, or you chose work over me, or this, that, and the other, right? So that's kind of, and again, it's like a muscle. You just kind of continuously have to do it. Ramsey said, for me, the reward punishment for communication is equivalent to cause and effect. That has 100% shaped how I communicate, because I've tried in so many situations in my life to communicate my feelings, but it had bad outcome every single time. So it's almost like sticking your hand in a bear trap. How many times are you going to do it before you realize that it hurts and I want to do this? That is unfortunately kind of the sad reality where we live in, Ramsey. A lot of people do not know how to accept somebody else's emotions and then to not take ownership of them. That's another big, big, big topic later on in the series, taking ownership for other people's. I touched upon that, right? I touched upon that earlier, where I said the denial of responsibility is coded into our language, right? I have to do this. I have to suspend you because it's policy. I started smoking cigarettes because all of my friends smoked. I lied because my boss told me to lie. I hate going to work, but I have to do it because I'm a husband. There is nobody responsible for the way that you're feeling, fortunately. And sometimes the people that you talk to believe what you're doing is you're denying the responsibility for what you're feeling, and you're telling them that they're responsible for that. And that's just because we've been coded into this violent language of how to judge and how to not open up in a normal sense, in a compassionate, empathetic sense. So unfortunately, those people, and nonviolent communication teaches you both sides of it, right? It teaches you how to empathetically, compassionately share, which is one half of it. It also it teaches you how to empathetically and compassionately, so that if somebody themselves aren't so adept at applying the concepts, if they've never heard of nonviolent communication, if all they do is communicate violently, there is a pathway and a procedure inside nonviolent communication, inside the idea of it, that actually teaches you to empathetically open up and see that person as not a person who's turning it around on you or trying to make you feel terrible, but a person in pain. Because that person that you're talking to that's taking things personally, that may be lashing out at you, that may be angry or whatever, they have their own unmet needs, right? Just like everybody else. You're taking your own feelings and needs to them, and they just don't know what to do with it, right? They've never been approached by somebody in such a blatant self-aware manner, where that person has all of the tools required to tell themselves, hey, this is why I'm feeling, this is why I'm feeling that way, and here's even something that I've thought of that you can stop making me feel this way. Most people just don't communicate in that manner. So a lot of the times you're going to be, and that's unfortunate, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? Ignorance is bliss type of thing. You're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on both sides of the conversation, right? NVC is a way of communicating, but it's also a way of listening. So you might communicate your own needs in a certain way, and they might communicate in a violent manner back to you, and it's your, I don't want to say job or duty, always our choice. But if you choose to be in that conversation with them, have an obligation to receive what they're saying and almost kind of fill in the nonviolent communication template with stuff that they're saying that you're pulling out of their sentence, right? Ignoring the moralistic judgments, ignoring the denial of responsibility, ignoring the hurt, ignoring whatever else they're saying where they're trying to hurt you, whatever it may be, and just seeing kind of like the rawness person out of it. Because unfortunately, the things that you've experienced, Ramsey, like aren't unique.
I also I think that with what you said, Ramsey, you need to understand that you say that this communication and this cause effect is 100% shaped how you communicate. I want you to look at yourself and acknowledge that that's wrong, and understand that you chose how you communicate. You made these decisions and choices to communicate the way you chose.
And that's
And the
okay.
only thing, and you cannot change other people, but you
Yep.
can change yourself. You can approach things differently. If what you are doing is not working, there is a reason it's not working. And I think that a big piece of advice I can give you is look into the 5 love languages, find out what they are, and if you're trying to communicate to someone and you know their love language, communicate to them through that, because you'll get a better outcome. You'll get a more positive response while showing them love that they need. Whether it be physical touch and maybe they just need a hug, or maybe they like gifts and you bought them flowers. And it doesn't matter if it's a guy or girl, you can buy someone flowers and it shows them thought process. It shows
Yep.
them that
Yeah.
you care about them. And it can be like $4 at the grocery store. And then that $4 can turn into something so much better for you to be able to communicate your needs emotionally. I think the other analogy that you said was it's almost like sticking your hand in a bear trap. Uh,
Oh, Mercedes, happy
you
birthday.
are seeing that before
Like,
the conversation. You can't look at the conversation like that, because then you're going to be going in with this anxiety and
yeah,
this stress
preconceived notions. Yeah.
that it's going to hurt again. And instead, you need to go, it's the law of attraction. You need to go in trying to attract a situation that of an outcome that you want. Because if you're not doing that, you're not going to get the outcome you want. Um, I think the other part of that that's really important is understanding when to
Robert?
cut
How you
people
doing?
off, because there are people that don't have any comprehension of how to care about others. And there are toxic people, and maybe you're not the person who was supposed to touch them.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not the person who was supposed
They need
to
to maybe they need to
help
do
them
some own
see
soul
that.
soul searching and come to their own conclusion, right? Again, like NVC will hopefully kind of open up the opportunity for people to communicate their needs effectively while also receiving somebody else's rebuttal for those needs, right? Because everything that we kind of talk about in this mini series is going to be two-sided. It's about not communicating your needs in a denial of responsibility way, but also not letting other people do that, right? Not letting other people come to you and say, you made me feel this way. No, I might have said something that triggered a chain reaction in your mind because of your environment, your social situation, your traumas, your past experiences, and that made you feel some way. But I'm not responsible for how you feel, right? It's about disconnecting that responsibility line between other people's own sense of responsibility. And like Casual said, some people are, I'd like to think that no one is lost completely, but some people, you're just not going to be able to find them for themselves. You're not going to be able to help them find themselves, right? And maybe those people at this juncture in your life, those are the people that we can consider to kind of cut off at a certain point, right? There's certain people that I don't want in my life, right? There's
And that's okay.
and that's 100% fine. At some point, maybe later, I will open up and maybe I'll reach out, or maybe, and that's 100% my choice and on me, right? But it's as much kind of taking that and understanding, it's sometimes, and it's unfortunate that it's this way, but sometimes it's going to be two-sided. You're going to have to do heavy lifting on both sides of the conversation. You're going to have to be incredibly self-aware and express your feelings in an empathetic, compassionate manner and present them as an opportunity for the other person to change their behavior in a positive way that better aligns with your needs and makes your life more enriching, while also listening empathetically and compassionately to the other person say whatever it is that they say without getting angry, because they might know how to push your buttons, right? If it's like a spouse or something and you guys are on the rocks or something, you never know what's gonna happen. They might know how to push you. It's about completely letting that shit go and listening from a perspective of real empathy and understanding of what they're trying to communicate. They just don't know how. They don't have the tools, right?
And you're gonna mess up.
Yep.
You're gonna mess up. You're gonna slip up.
If you're not messing up, you're not trying.
Sometimes. And I think that, and this is my challenge to you and anyone that's going through something similar to what Ramsey's going through, when you're trying to establish a communication about your emotions and stuff. First off, approach it with those love languages and do everything that you can in your power to make it positive. Even if it's negative to you, try to make it positive. Second off, when you mess up, recognize you messed up and have the courage and the bravery to try to approach it again with a right mind and make it right and do it the right way. Because just because you miscommunicated once doesn't mean you can't come back and communicate the right way. It doesn't mean anything. And don't hold on to those moments where you or they communicated the wrong way. Take those moments and release them. You can use visual meditation if you need to release them,
Yep.
but take those moments and let them go. And there's going to be so many episodes of this, so many topics to touch, and letting go is going to be a really big one.
Yeah.
But we're trying to bring it one subject at a time, and they all tie into each other. They're all going to help everyone with a lot of things they're struggling with. But just have that awareness. Be aware of your communication and move forward always. And when you get knocked back, recognize what knocked you back.
Yep.
Get up and move forward.
Take a
That's
black
all
light to
you
the
can do.
situation, learn from the mistake, and keep going. Right? Kind of what Casual said, never stop trying. If you're not failing, you're not trying. You know, it's so many times, and with family, it's the worst. Especially with parents, especially with my parents, especially with my mom specifically. Love you to death, Mom. But there are times where it's just so difficult for me to passionately and empathetically communicate and receive. Communicate, I can do. I can get to the point where I'm communicating my feelings. It's when she starts to kind of take a way of her own and start to and she's not doing this to spite me or anything. She just doesn't know how to communicate effectively, which is fine, you know, and make me feel bad for the way that I'm feeling, right? And it's so difficult for me to change out the hat and say, okay, now I have to listen compassionate and empathetically. Like, I'm in pain, I'm angry, I'm sad, whatever it may be, and I just explained it to her, and instead of understanding how to receive that and change her behavior, she's now attacking me back, right? What you have to understand is you're pivoting a lot in these types of conversations, and all of a sudden when you're explaining, they start talking, you go, okay, I have to start receiving in a nonviolent way. I have to start helping them come to a conclusion of what they're actually feeling and why they're feeling that thing, because they might not have the tools, right? And it's a learning exercise no matter what. Ramsey says, I think it's mostly because I'm literally surrounded by very strong personalities and people who are completely different from how I am. They communicate in very blunt and harsh ways. That's a lot of people do. I am the opposite and always am thinking about the other person's feelings and not wanting to make anything uncomfortable. That is a big thing in our society, and when it gets uncomfortable, I close down completely and placate the other person as much as possible. And I realize that's on me. That is on me for allowing that, but it's so hard when it's built. It really is difficult. It's 100% difficult, and that's why, honestly, that's why therapy exists. And that's not me saying like I'm not offloading you to like get some mental health. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But that's exactly why therapy exists. Sometimes we're doing things for so often they become like second nature.
And a professional can give you the insight that you may need to hear.
And the professionals so far in your life don't sound like they're giving you the right insight. So
it's also an understanding. You say that you're surrounded by people with very strong personalities. Well, every single human being on this earth has a very strong personality.
They might have strong personalities. They might just be toxic in the way they communicate how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody has a strong personality in one way or another, you know.
Some people are harsh and they are blunt, and some people are sensitive, and that's just what it is. And I'm picking up that you're a little bit more on the sensitive side.
Yep, I am too.
That's okay.
I'm so sensitive.
That's literally okay. But what you have to do is stop, and you're already doing it. You're seeing things that you do, patterns that you take. You're already assessing yourself. That's the first step. Now you have to think about, how can I feel better about this? How can I change myself? How can I feel less sensitive? Because at the end of the day, the things that they say, you get to choose how that makes you feel. The things that you do are up to you. The way you feel is up to you, regardless of what they say.
Yeah.
And if they're not worth your time in the end, they're not worth your time. And you are hardwired. You've grown up to a point where your experiences, your parents teaching you, things you've gone through, the friends you've made, every single person that has ever touched you has been a part of that wiring. And you're walking that path in the tall grass, and you're walking it again. Yep. And you're walking it again. And the only thing you can do is look at the path, understand the path, and understand how you want to change it, and then day by day. I think this is a really big thing. I saw this on Will Smith's Instagram the other day. He said, I'm taking the time to make every day great for myself, and in the end I'll have a great life. And that's what it is. At the end of the day, that's all you can do, is take the time to make every single day great for yourself, regardless of what others have done to you, regardless of how others talk to you. All you can do is do what you can do for yourself and for your own happiness.
Yep.
And you need to take that and you need to run with it, and you need to make those pathways. But we're actually hitting close to our time limit. We got about 10 minutes. I think it's a good opportunity to start applying some closure to this.
Yep.
If anyone else has any questions or anything, now is the time
chat.
to ask. I do want to challenge every single person watching. If you're watching the podcast right now, and I'll post the link in Michael's chat as well. Go to the Spotify playlist. If that link doesn't work, just go to the one in the confined chat or on my page's chat, and add a song, just one song that has helped you to feel something. It doesn't matter if it's happy. It doesn't matter if it's sad. It doesn't matter if it's helped you to understand your anger.
Yeah.
Put that music onto the playlist and understand that you're contributing in some way, shape, or form to others' mental health. And giving is a huge, one thing about human existence is it feels good to give, even if it's the little things.
That's literally what NVC teaches you, how to give compassionately. So that's our apex. Our apex is not being a fucking billionaire and having a million cars and having supermodel friends and flying on private jets. That's not our apex. Our apex is to give and receive as compassionately as possible. So I guess in a Spark Notes way, just real quick recap. It's not about evaluating right or wrongness. It's not about moralistic judgments on right or wrongness. It's not about making comparisons between you and another person. It's not about denying responsibility, and it's also not about letting the other person deny responsibility for how they're feeling either. It's not about communicating desires as demands. It's not about punishment reward cycles. It's really, we want people to understand how we're feeling, what they can do to make us feel in a way that's more connected with our needs, how we can communicate that effectively, and we want them to change their behavior. Incredibly important. We want them to change their behavior for the right reason. You don't want them to change their behavior because they feel like you're going to punish them later. They don't want them to change their behavior because you feel like they're gonna yell at you or they're gonna shame you or whatever. They want them to change their behavior because they see it as an opportunity to make your life more enriching, and vice versa.
And you have to understand that you can't make them change.
You cannot make them change.
There's only one thing you can do, and that is changing yourself. And in changing yourself, I promise you, you will find that the environment and the people around you change naturally.
Yeah, they do. It becomes much more palatable. Even with the people that Ramsey brings up who are a little bit on the toxic side, whether or not they are at fault for it, everybody has their own story. I'm not gonna, make any judgments on them. That's not what NVC is. I literally spent an hour talking about how not to make moralistic judgments. But it's about really changing, and you want the people on the other side of the conversation to change for the right reason. Right?
Energy is contagious.
It is.
I think that even this podcast, this episode alone, is evidence of how contagious energy is, because we have this very neutral, positive energy flowing right now between me and Michael, and you can look through the chat and you can see so many people. Yeah. Even if there's only 20 to 40 of us, that's so many people that are connecting to each other in a positive way, and that energy is spreading. And that's why I keep seeing these messages that I need this, that I needed to hear this, that I needed to see this.
Ramsey says, I think this is beyond amazing. We absolutely need this. Yep.
I think that you guys aren't the only one who needs it, and that me and Michael have definitely breached a point in our relationship where we haven't really had talks like this before talking about this podcast. And I can say honestly that there's a more spiritual connection between he and I, and that connection also spreads to our community and our viewers.
Yep.
And I think that this is the thing. You have to comprehend the ripple effect. When you throw a stone into the water and the ripple goes out, that's what we're doing right now. Is we're tossing the stones of understanding nonviolent communication and how to love one another. And now you guys need to take those stones and toss your own and let that ripple affect as many people around you as you can.
Yep.
Because that's like I said, in changing yourself, you are going to change others, and all together will change the world.
Yep.
One person at a time, one day at a time. And it's just like that Will Smith quote: make every day great, one day at a time, and before you know it, you have a good life, you have a great life. And that's what everyone wants. That's what we're all trying to achieve, is understanding and being able to love and to feel loved and to feel happy. That's what mental health is all about, is being able to feel happy and also being able to be comfortable in your own emotions, whether it be sadness,
Yeah.
anger. We're all human. Every single person is human. Every single person has flaws, and we are all really taking this day by day. And that's why we're going to take this podcast and understand that Michael and I are not psychologists.
We're not therapists.
We are not professionals. We are human beings just like you. We see therapists, and we want to be able to share what we learn through that and through our own research, and let that be a material, a resource for you to be able to find and help you to achieve your day to day and to make your days good one day at a time. And when you approach this, I want everyone to take away this message. Next time, the next person you talk to for the next week before the next episode, I want you guys to try to have as many nonviolent communication experiences as you can. I want you to be able to come up and talk to, it doesn't matter who it is in your life. It could be your best friend. It could be the cashier at the grocery store. Attempt to have genuine, open, nonviolent words of affirmation inside of this communication with somebody.
Yeah.
And then next week, when we start to open up for the next episode, we haven't even discussed a topic yet. Next week, we don't even know what we're covering yet. It could be part 2. It could be a whole nother topic that we're really feeling. There could be another person with us. But before we start, we're going to have a little 10-15 minute pre-session for you guys to bring forward, hey,
This is what I did.
this was a nonviolent communication we had with the cashier at the grocery store, or with my boyfriend,
Or with my
or with my
best
best
friend,
friend,
right?
or with
With
my mom
anybody.
and dad.
Yep, or my parents or whoever that may be. Easy way that I found myself to kind of really open that up, and this might be difficult with, I found this really difficult in general to do this type of communication with quote unquote dudes, because men are not, they're just taught to be stoic and unemotional. What I really like to do with my friends from back home specifically, when we sit down to eat, and I usually like to do this one on one, because I don't like to, people don't like to share in like a group setting sometimes, especially if it's emotional stuff. um you ask them how they are, and they give you the boilerplate bullshit. You let that kind of sink in for a couple seconds, and then 5-10 seconds later, you follow up the original "how are you" with the same question, "how are you," but you're emphasizing the word "how." So you go, "How are you?" They go, "I'm fine." How are you, dude? How are you really? And a lot of the times they might open up. A lot of the times you might get the whole, well, you want to know how I feel type of thing, and that's okay, right? It's important that you tried, and they understand, just from you asking that, they understand that you care. So the "how are you" with the emphasis on "how" is a very easy kind of thing that's built into our language that we've kind of forgotten about. That's a way that I've found to kind of take down people's defenses a little bit and get them into a more compassionate, empathetic state to kind of give and receive naturally.
And I also think that as men, you need to understand your best friend does love you. They
Yep.
do care about you. And I mean, honestly, like, I can sit here and honestly say that I love Michael and I care about Michael's existence. And even if you can't reach that point that Michael just said, you can open up,
Yeah.
and that can help them to open up. And opening up may be expressing your happiness in the day, but it could also be expressing your fear. And don't be afraid to express your fears to your friends, because at the end of the day, they do care about you.
Yeah.
And if something happened to you or you did something to yourself and they could never go back and change those things, that's going to affect him and every single other person in your life that felt like they should have been there when they weren't. You have to open up the opportunity for them to be there, and you have to be vulnerable. And that's one of the hardest parts, is learning how to be vulnerable, especially as a man.
Yeah,
But at the
vulnerability is
end
a
of the
whole nother
day,
topic. Yeah.
men and women alike, whether you're talking to a man or you're talking to a woman, it's okay to not be okay. It is okay to not feel okay. And it is okay to express why. And it is okay to express your weaknesses and your strengths. So we're going to go out. Michael and I are definitely going to have nonviolent communication. It's going to be something that we both are going to work on deliberately this week.
Yep.
And we're going to come back with stories that we've had. Um, and I want to hear your guys' stories next week on Sunday. And if there's anything that you guys want to reach out to us about in our streams or anything, feel free.
Yeah. Page a message.
Come talk to us. We are open books. We're very free spirited and free minded, and we want to be here for our communities.
Yep.
I mean, I spent last night for 2 hours talking to just one of my mods and community members about a struggle she was going through. And I even got to talk about a lot of the things that I was going through. And it's important to have those relationships. And it's important to care about yourself. And if you can't care about yourself, you're not going to be able to do the things to help others. And at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to be able to help others and to have one day at a time be a good day. And there's going to be bad days.
Yeah. You can't, unfortunately, you can't have the good without the bad. It's all, the good without the bad gives the good no meaning, you know?
Yep. So everyone feel free to add a song to the playlist.
Yep.
Kylie says, I just want to say thank you both for caring about everyone and creating a safe environment for everyone to be themselves. You guys are the best. That's honestly why we're called Team Confide. That's what the name comes from. I don't think it's a coincidence that we became a team. And I think that Michael and I are right where we're supposed to be right now.
Yeah. And
you can confide in us, and we want to be able to confide in you guys. It's important that we can show that. And basically,
exactly, Ramsey. It's an easy way to kind of break the shell.
There's got to be something some ending to the podcast that can really close off every podcast. So I think that it's important that we thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, time is important. The only currency you can't get back.
That you're willing to work on yourselves to better others and yourself, and for being vulnerable. Because even if you're in here not talking and you're just listening to what we're saying, you're being vulnerable.
Yeah, you're allowing yourself to listen to what we're saying.
Yep. It's super important. And to the people that have been inputting and giving us responses and stuff, this is the first time we've ever done this, and it's very reassuring, even if we're just touching 15-20 people's lives, that we're doing the right thing and that it's worth doing. Yep. And that gives us a lot of self-worth that we may not have had before this. I know coming into this, I felt really excited and partially nervous, because at some point I'm going to be bringing out a lot of my shit, and I have to prepare for that mentally and be ready to have that conversation on stream so everyone can understand, because everybody has a story. And if you have a story and you want to be on an episode, reach out to us.
Yeah, let us know.
We want to do that. So we want to say thank you for your time, and we really want to take a moment to just let everyone know that we love you, that we care about you, each and every one of you. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you've been through. We do love you. We do care about you. You exist for a reason. And if you need help finding that reason, we're here.
Yep.
So
always,
if anyone wants to bring anything in to our streams outside of this, just know that is totally acceptable, totally okay. And if anybody wants to come into the podcast next week as well,
100%.
just to show us about your words of affirmation and
Your
what you've been
experience with
doing to
NVC.
communicate. We're excited to hear it. And
Yeah, Joshua says as a closing statement, I came into this late, but I really like the vibe from this. It's so much more character from a streamer. It's humanizing and an amazing thing. And that's the hope we get. This hope that if one of the things that we said, and people who came in late, you guys can, this will be posted right after we end this. You guys can go and watch the first, 45 minutes to an hour.
I'm gonna post it to YouTube,
Yeah.
and we're gonna work the process out of putting this on Spotify and on Apple Music, so that everyone can have access. And if anyone ever wants to contribute, you can 100% contribute with stars and donations towards it. And that, just know that even if you're donating to Michael or me or the Confide page, you're helping us to be able to keep doing what we're doing. In streaming, in mental health advocacy, and everything in between. And also know that it's not a necessity, that if you need this and you need to be here and you need to be a part of our communities, you need friends, you need a place, that's what we are. I don't think either of us do this for the money. Obviously, we have needs. We both need food and water. We both need a roof over our head, right? And you're helping us to achieve those things when you donate to us. But at the end of the day, being here and giving us your time is so much more than just a number on the viewer count.
It is, yeah.
It's a direct support, just being present and just being here and talking and chat and supporting. You have no idea how much it helps us to achieve what we want to achieve
next Sunday,
and
baby.
Also to mentally push us forward into doing what we want to do. So yeah,
at the end of the day, we all need connection. That's kind of, hopefully that's what this facilitates, and hopefully a lot of the stuff that we spoke about kind of resonates with you guys. And it seems like from the positivity I see in my chat, everybody's down, and they want this to be a regular thing. So I'm totally down, whether it's NVC part 2, kind of diving into the process, what is an observation, what is a feeling, what is a need type of thing, or if we want to tackle a different thing. 100%.
I'm gonna make a post right now to the Team Confide page. If you are not following the Team Confide page, here's the link.
Gonna shove it in my chat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Go follow the page. Michael has his own community. I have my own community. Our community is intermesh. And there's so many other members on Confide that care just as much about you as we do.
Yep.
And so I'm going to make a post on the Team Confide page. There's also a group called Team Confide Fans where you can go in and be a part of more closed group, more privacy within our community. But this post is just going to be, what would you need to hear about? What do you want to hear about? What do you want to approach? What subjects do you think would be important in the future for your mental health? And I'm going to make the post right now. And if you guys want to go drop a comment, say, hey, I've been really struggling with anger.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been really struggling with forgiving.
Yeah, vulnerability.
I've been really struggling with self-love.
Yep.
Whatever it may be, there's so many topics that we can touch. We want to know what you guys want to hear. We want to know what you guys need. And we want to be able to do our research and do our part in helping talk about that and bring an approach to that. So, but we're gonna cut it off before we get back to rambling.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We appreciate all the time spent, all of the positive words. It really does mean the world to us. And we'll see you guys next week on Sunday, probably around the same time. And we hope to see you guys there.
Peace.